things been for you? I know that much of your day at that time was in and out of Dublin. So for the last 7 months, have you been travel restricted?
Yeah. Well, the world has moved to virtual, and what I've been doing for the last 6 months of the pandemic or more is mentoring companies and CEOs all over the country, and we do it all. A lot of it actually at this stage by phone and on Zoom, but it's very unusual that I'm now, deep down in the weeds with these companies, a number of months in, and yet I've never visited the premises, and so on. But actually, I feel I know the business as well, because they can show me footage of their processes and all of that. So nothing is lost in the fact that we're doing it virtually, but it just means then that I'm working from home 24/7, and I've been able to do that. But I think it's the variety that I'm dealing with these companies, and I shouldn't say it this way, but I would have thought people would have come to me looking for mentoring as regards sales and marketing, and of course that's what I'm happy to do as well. But a lot of these are a very specialist manufacturing company or very specialist services they're trying to sell, and I have been surprised at, well, according to them, they're kind enough to say that I've been really able to help them continue to trade. But one thing we're going to be talking about later on is this thing I'm calling the next normal, because I think most of us are struggling through COVID-19 and hoping we'll get back to something like 2019. And what I want to make people aware of this morning here on the coffee morning, and thanks for joining in, is that we're not going back. We're going to what I'm calling the next normal, and we'll go into a little bit of detail about that. And please, as Noel has said, if you have any questions, look, tap away there. Stick up your hand, and I don't think they'll be interrupting us, Jackie, will they?
No.
We're here to hear from you, and don't be shy to ask that. Just one little thing, Jackie, as you and I was supposed to be having coffee, but see this, I think I'm being healthy because it's Coke Zero. But anyway, one of the things that sort of I'm sometimes asked by people, if I was doing some sales training with people, say, when you go in for a meeting with somebody and the person says, would you like a coffee? People don't know what to say. And most people say, well, if you're having one yourself, I'll have one, right? Which, seems to be nice and so on. But can I tell you that research tells us more than 70% of people now go and get you the coffee or get a colleague to make it for you. They're now reluctant because you weren't keen to have it, but feel they have to give it to you now. Anyway, so if you're ever asked, would you have a tea or coffee? Say to the person, I'd love a tea. Now they feel good about it, but also in a lot of organizations, as I said, we'll be talking about how the world has changed and business premises will be different post-COVID than they were before it. But usually then, sometimes you'll walk with somebody, as I would with you, Jackie, in your office, and I always think you pick up information about the organization that's going to be very helpful to your meeting. So when somebody says, will you have a coffee, don't say whatever you're having yourself, or if it's not too much, I say, I'd love one. And that's why when you made the offer to me to have this coffee, I didn't realize there'd be that many people in the coffee room. But when you said that, I was definitely all in for this. As I said, I think it's a great idea. And I was very impressed because I saw Sean Gallagher, my friend Sean, and Joan Hession, and wow, you've set the bar very, very high. So I'm feeling the pressure.
Not at all. Gavin, in some of our conversations of late, you talk about change, and we're all, the business community, as you say, we're reeling from so much change. And the mantra would be, it's changed because of COVID. You would contend and suggest that it's not because of it, but perhaps it just expedited it. It just speeded it up. What do you mean by that?
Well, let me explain why we're so unsettled at the moment, right? By COVID and the changes it's brought about, because it's a little weird for me to say these changes were going to happen anyway, right? But forgive me now, this is the analogy I'm thinking of. Imagine before COVID, you saw, we'll say, an elderly person reaching with the back of their left hand out to touch the face of somebody else, the way a grandparent might caress the cheek of a child in the family, right? Now, all of you would have to say that's a gesture of affection. Think about this, compare. Exact same hand movement, but now delivered at speed with momentum, is the slap, smack, or swipe of the back of somebody's hand to your face. And that would have to be seen as an act of aggression or worse, assault, right? So what I'm saying is change is not a problem. It's the speed at which COVID is now bringing things on. So of all the people joining us this morning, according to research, 0.0015% of people had heard of Zoom at Christmas. Now, it is an established worldwide platform. No other technology has got such a big explosive start, so much so that we now use it in the vernacular and language. So, oh God, I had it. I'm zoomed out after the day, and so on. So back to this thing of the speed. When, Jackie, we're implementing change in our businesses, if it's change at a pace of our choosing, then we're actually quite comfortable with it. When it's been forced on us, foisted on us, as we feel, from external situation, and it's coming at us at speed, we get very unsettled. And what I'm noticing from mentoring businesses all around the country, across all sectors, large, small, medium, is that they are very thrown by this. And that's why we're even becoming more critical of government, because it's stuff coming at you and the ground moving from underneath you. But I'd say this. Everything, yes, that's happening was going to happen anyway. And what I'm going to be explaining is that where we're going to is different, the next normal. Can I just explain this change thing? And now, again, this might be an unusual analogy. 3 years ago, my mother died. And that's not a sad thing. Ma'am was in her 90s and she had a great life. And I'm the youngest in our family, so I'm called a baby. And you hate that when you're in your 30s, but when you get my age, being called a baby, it's quite nice. But I mentioned the fact that I was a baby. My mum always didn't mind putting an imposition on me. And we knew she hadn't long to live. Various health problems were catching up with her. And I was visiting her in her residential home or in Moorhall in Drogheda, where she'd been for the last 2 years of her life. And she just issued an instruction. I want to see the seaside before I die, right? Okay, so when a mother says that, make a long story short, drove to a place I'd been in 25 years earlier in Northern Ireland. I won't mention it, but we'll say it's in County Down on the coast, because I'd had a romantic weekend with the woman that became my wife there 26, 27 years ago, and I thought it'd be a nice place to go. And when I went there, the moment I got there, I realized what a stupid idea. I'd forgotten it had a brilliant view over the sea, because it was built up onto the hill, onto a cave near, Nam was now in a wheelchair, so we wouldn't be able to go out for a walk, etc. And so on. I'm driving back home, I go into the village, and there's a tourist office. Now, normally you'd think I'd go out and I'd go in and I'd ask, which I was thinking of doing, is there another place around that is wheelchair accessible? You know what I did, Jackie? Yeah. I actually stayed in my car, took out my phone and Googled. Now, somebody being paid to give me information inside, yet I trusted what was on my phone more than the human who lived in the place there. And there's a rationale for that, because I've heard, well, their job is to talk me into staying here anyway, etc. Whatever the reasons are, we are making decisions based on online. So people are now saying we must pivot to online. I'm saying that was happening anyway. And, the change is that even if you're a bricks and mortar business, people are going to be interacting with you more online than you might have ever imagined post-COVID, and COVID is speeding all of that up. So yeah, there are very big changes happening, and we keep hearing about COVID and the number of people's lives have sadly been lost to it, etc. But can I just say that it's going to kill off an awful lot of what I would call, and I don't like using the term, but I have to be truthful, zombie businesses. So, you know, if you were a country pub at a rural crossroads, like I think you have, that business has been dying because, you know, the world has changed, society has changed, people don't drive to pub, should I say, to drink anymore. And, you know, that's had an impact. So, yeah, COVID's going to sadly clear out a lot of those businesses that have been hanging on by their fingernails. And what you've got to decide is, yeah, you know, what is the future potential of your business, and how do I use this time to sort of change the mindset to make sure I'm able to take advantage of the very big changes that are coming down the road at you now at a speed that you have no choice, but you've got to change and change quickly.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Gavin. It's been very much to the fore of my mind. I've watched an awful lot of businesses who would have sustained themselves, and an awful lot due to nostalgia, perhaps, particularly those older places who maybe had a sense of duty to their community or to their employees. Then the decision to close was taken away from them. So, you know, something that they may have been facing or concerned about, it was taken out of their hands. So they didn't have to do the emotional change. It was taken from them. And I think that's why so many of them may not open now that they've closed, because that decision to switch off the light wasn't theirs.
Yeah, Jackie, I'm concerned that I could be here, you know, proselytizing about how we all needed to change. Funny thing is, back around the time I was Googling stuff outside the office in that seaside village in County Down in Northern Ireland, or just across the border, around that time, my business partner and life partner, Orla, you know, was saying, you know, the type of training we do where we're sort of, that's all going to go online. And I'm embarrassed to say this, she brought in two experts, one from Ireland and another from London, to advise us. You know who was the most resisting person in the room?
Oh, of course you were. And
so like, I feel really guilty here saying, oh, you know, you should all be doing this. It's just, we don't. But now I'm just telling you, you don't have a choice. And so, as I've been saying, for the last 6 months, working with such a variety of companies, it amazes me. It has to be right when all of them, and I'm probably more than 20, all of us are unanimously of the view we're not going back to 2019, and we're going to a very different place. Not a frightening place, but business practices and business premises are going to be different.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed from even your own work pattern. I mean, previously I would have used you or got you for, you know, the public speaking, as many organizations would have. So you would have been speaking to many. You know, that dried up like anybody's business did. And then you, as you alluded to, you know, you've focused an awful lot more on one-to-ones where that opportunity has arisen. And in doing that, I think you've possibly went back to where you started from.
Yes, yeah. There's an element of that. Can I just say the most interesting one-to-one, so we can start talking about what these actual changes
and what the learnings might be.
Yeah. I'm just so lucky that, you know, I can come on here, and that's even why I went to the bother putting a video up yesterday. Says he, I hope it doesn't come across so modestly. I think what I have to say is so relevant and significant to people's businesses. I need you to hear it. And you won't be able to act on it straight away because you'll need to think and reflect on it, because they're pretty radical changes, right? And funny enough, this is a person who was educated in Kildare. I know he attended the Dominican College in Newbridge back in the 70s. There's a gentleman called Chris Kane, and his book by Bloomsbury of New York is coming out next month in early October. And I think it's going to be one of the biggest business books this year in the world. It's called Where's My Office? Now, this was written before COVID-19, right? And yet he's just fortunate with the timing. But I was working with him recently and giving him some advice around the book launch and so on. Now, Chris Kane, I think he was originally from Wicklow, but as I said, he has that connection to Kildare. He's the person who reorganized the whole office complex of the BBC about 10 years ago. And he moved it to a sort of a digital business, the entire British Broadcasting Corporation, the BBC. And then because that was so successful, he was headhunted and he went and he did the same for Disney. So he's written this book called Where's My Office? And what that is telling us is, wherever we were working in 2019, we're not going to be working there in the same way in 2022, right? And, you know, I don't want to make it sound like some big revelation. I'm not coming down from the mountain with 2 tablets of stone here. But what I am saying is the madness of getting up at 5:30 and driving from Portlaoise to an office in Dublin, trying to put in X hours a day there and driving home again. That we're not going back to that. And in a way, it was a tyranny. So we shouldn't be unsettled by it as long as we have something else. But here's the surprise. And you know, one of the big new trends is going to be digital hubs. The alternative is not working from home. Yeah, most of the people on this Zoom this morning are working from home, but if they had a choice, they would have liked to do a 15-minute journey to somewhere this morning, go to their hot desk or small office and be there in a digital hub with ultra quality, you know, broadband, etc., have the social interactions, etc. Now, they may be working for Bank of Ireland, or they may be working for Vodafone, but they're not going to Vodafone's lovely offices in Sandyford. They're going. That's how a lot of people are going to be working. But even your business premises is going to have to change, because customers are now looking for and demand, and have learned through COVID, you know, to behave differently. So they will want more interactions. So the first big change is, you know, whatever way we were, the work practices we were using before, and the thing we called our business premises, that's going to have a different function, even if it exists. Now, look, I know you already, you know, you may have a lease and you might say getting out of it, etc. And this is what I mean by COVID. Chris Kane, in his book, Where's My Office, was saying this is all going to happen, but he was expecting the commercial property people to, you know, be kicking the table and delaying it as much as possible. COVID has expedited it. It's now going to happen and has happened at speed. The second thing, I know most people joining us this morning are, you know, self-starting, wonderful entrepreneurial business people. But the management structure of companies has and will be flattened, right? And what does that mean? The term middle management and middle management people are literally going to be wiped out post-COVID. Sorry, I know that's bad news. If you're in a role like that, your future is, if you're lucky, you're going to be moved up. If you're unlucky, you're going to be moved down, or worse, you could be moved out. Now, why? Middle management, the role of middle management was, if we're all honest with one another, was we didn't trust our employees. So in a larger organization, we had a load of people keeping an eye on you just to make sure you were doing stuff and doing the work. Then COVID comes along, we send people home, work from home, and all of the evidence is they're more productive when they're away doing it for themselves, etc., working. In fact, we're seeing they're working at 10 o'clock at night time sometimes, etc. But across the week, they're not doing 39 hours. They're doing a lot more. So yes, it's understandable that businesses are going to say, we need to be paying all of those middle managers. So there's a lot of talk about people say, oh, well, will we need our office? Well, yeah, it may still be there because we have a lease, but middle managers and people in that role. So you have to start preparing yourself and gearing up and skilling up to step up to the next level, or you're going to be becoming one of the so-called workers. But if you're allowed to do that from home, or if you're doing that from one of these digital hubs, Jackie, you may be very, very pleased with that. Could I just say to the type of people who are on here, this requires very significant change. And Jackie, you've heard me say this before, but now it's so much more important. I used to say it, but now it's really relevant. I'm trying to think of somebody, graphic designer. I would say, please don't say you're a graphic designer, right? Because that's the definition of your role. You've got to be saying, I solve businesses' problems for when they need to get their message across graphically. That just changes your whole attitude. You're no longer a graphic designer, you're a person who sells graphic design services. Does that make sense? I don't want it to sound like some little phrase, but it's a huge psychological difference. And for those of us who are in the situation where we now find ourselves that, what we're doing is going to have to change. You have to change the way you see yourself. And as I said, we're now in the business of selling things. And I know this looks a bit wee, but coincidentally, and it's not just a plug for his missus, I think this is almost 5 years old now. But this is all explained in Perform as a Leader and so on. So Perform as a Leader by Orla Carmody 5 years ago. So can you understand, for me, stuff I've been saying is now, very, very relevant, and this is one of them. So that management structure. So I was on the little video I put up yesterday, I was saying, the back end of your business is going to be horizontal rather than vertical. And of course, business people get carried away talking in that sort of silly language. But what that means is the hierarchical structures that were in larger businesses, where you had CEO, and then you had the senior management team, and then you had the middle management team, and then you had the hopefully next middle management team. That's all going to change, and the organization is going to be flattened. And the wonderful thing for the people on here this morning is most of us are from small businesses, so we can just do that, but we've got to think differently. We don't build the old-fashioned structure, keep it very, very flat. And then, sorry, now I'm going on, if you want to jump in at any stage, but the third thing is, even for bricks and mortar businesses, right, the big change that's happening for old-fashioned, I shouldn't use the word traditional because that makes them sound older than old-fashioned even, right? Let's say you're a restaurant, a hairdresser, you make widgets, you go out and knock doors, and you sell your widgets. I'm saying at least 40% of the interactions your customers want to have with you in the future must be online. You just have to get that into your head. So that's not e-tailing, right? Yeah, there are certain people, and only for them, who came up with a concept a few years ago and they sell everything online and so on. And I fully understand, Jackie, that people are being told by so-called business experts, you've got to pivot to online. Yeah, just take it from me, who's been mentoring a lot of people through the process. It's easier said than done, if you're a traditional bricks and mortar business. But what I'm saying for bricks and mortar businesses, if you're a hairdressing salon, right? Be clear on this. As I said, at least 4 out of 10 interactions a customer will want with you will be online. So your sales pipeline will be online. Your sales process needs to be, that includes bookings as well, but also yields. Because when it moves to online, you're able to get them to come into the store when it suits you, when you have capacity. So don't see this as a bad thing, right? But, the old days of, yeah, okay, right, I'll fit you in Thursday at such and such and such. Like, that's still going to, I'm not saying that'll be wiped out. By the way, if you doubt me, let me just give you a bit of evidence. For a number of years, I was consulting with some of our pillar banks, right? You know how involved I was, Jack. So, you know, we'll say they're payment services, right? That little credit card we all have. Do you know that in the last 6 months, that the number of people tapping who are over 45 years of age has exploded? So for some reason, there was an older demographic who were offered a tap and have been for the last 2-3 years and would not tap because they're just not comfortable with money magically moving from their account. They just were uncomfortable. COVID comes along and Chop says, you know, and we don't want to be handling cash, but cut down on touch, etc. And when I say exploded, it's by a multiple of 7,000 times more transactions in. So tapping is here to stay. You know what I mean? People will, you know, money. We all knew it was going to happen sometime. Money is flying around electronically. Come back to the bricks and mortar thing. As I said, even if, like, for example, if you're a restaurant, you know, and some restaurants have done it. You know, the menu is now on a Q code. The interactions. Let's go back to the hairdressing salon. Why not, when I'm going onto that hairdressing salon, I should, through that website, through your website for the shop, be able to go on to another, sort of, I can try different hairstyles visually, etc. And you can send me the ones that work best for you. You know, you can highlight those ones. That's what I'm talking about, interactions online. Are going to be much more part and parcel of business. For somebody who's in a totally 100% detailing model, that's very straightforward and obvious, but for the rest of us, we really have to step up in the whole online game.
Okay, and speaking about the tapping, I know, I suppose, and I'm a big advocate that we start to look forward. And I've heard from one of your mentees around the playbook and its emphasis and benefits of the playbook and your focus on sales. Tell me about Gavin Duffy playbook.
Okay. Right. Somebody is because look. Sometimes I'm sounding like it's a big concept, but a lot of people, you know, who run businesses, they're brilliant at operations, and they tell me they're very poor at sales, right? And so they go looking for what I call, Jackie, the Messiah. They think they're going to find this brilliant salesperson who's going to come along and transform their business. And it's a big expense. And the hire the salesperson, they don't know how to induct them properly, etc., etc., etc. And then a few months in, gosh, they've lost all that money, all that time, and that person wasn't the Messiah. Now, sometimes it works. Chances of it working is very, very rare. So I suppose when one of the people I mentored, or the mentee, said to you, you know, the Gavin Duffy playbook, one of the things I do when I come on, I start mentoring somebody running a company is, you know, I'm very unhappy. And, like, you know, I'm not there to dictate the agenda, but I do get a little unhappy if we're not talking about sales most of the time we're talking. Because it's all about generating sales. And if I'm going to bring them to a next level and if they're going to grow, that's done by selling. And what I'd say to people is this, and for any of the small businesses here, and I know this is going to frighten you before I say it, why would you employ one salesperson? Would you not, if you're going to start a proper, say, employ a team, start with at least 2, possibly 3. I can't afford 3 salaries, Gavin, or, you know, that'd be very expensive. Next thing I say to them is, well, then let's look at the overheads in your business. You'd be surprised. Money can always be found for making more money. But you've got to start thinking like that. But I suppose here, because you know, if I was to put it the shortest way I can, I would recommend adopt an Aidan O'Brien racehorse training approach. why would you put one horse into the Derby? You have a much better chance of winning if you enter 5 horses, because on the day, one of them will perform to the best of their ability that season and will win the race for you and get you the big prize money. But it's not that I'm sort of trying to employ more salespeople, because in a lot of organizations, small ones that I've been dealing with, we've been only able to afford the first one. But it's that we're thinking now and changing the organization from what we operate and what we do, actually, how do we find customers, sell to them, and how do we sell more to our existing customers? And that sounds obvious when it's said, but like, that's what you have to do. And unless you are thinking sales 24/7, and that's my gospel, then you're not doing the business justice. And, it won't be one person a messiah. You have to sort of re-engineer the business to give the salesperson or salespeople the opportunity to deliver for you.
I totally agree. Absolutely, totally agree. Because my job meeting entrepreneurs on a day-to-day basis is we're so busy making and creating that the sales is the last thought. And yet it is the lifeblood of the company. So I'm absolutely delighted you got that point out. And we must talk about a project perhaps that might benefit Kildare businesses. You and I going a little bit of collaboration going forward in the next few weeks. To that point, Gavin, I'm going to open it up and let some people in this coffee morning have a chat with you. I don't want to hug you all to myself.
So Jackie, we can see quite a few questions coming. It's great to see this is week 3 and some very familiar faces. So people are coming back every Monday for the coffee morning. That's great to see it. A few people agreeing with you there, Gavin. Assumpta Gallagher is saying that when you were talking about being the baby of the family, she can certainly relate to that. She's the youngest of 13. 9 brothers and 2 sisters. Yeah. So something saying though that there's a balance that she thinks, as she believes it's important to have social interactions when working. She's been working exclusively from home since March, apart from working in-house with a few clients. It has certainly brought many advantages as it's cut down her time on the road, but I'm choosing to go back to the office in October as it feels it will work better in terms of productivity. So just a comment. Deirdre O'Keefe is here again. Good to see you again, Deirdre. Deirdre was talking there about online. Let me see if we can find it just jumped on me there, Deirdre. Where's Deirdre's comment there? Yeah, she was talking about USP. So great advice, Gavin. Create more of a USP to finding what your value and potential is, and talking about online as well, that we all need that kick in the bottom. If we can draw any silver linings from this horrendous COVID, is put more focus on the e-commerce side to our business. Perhaps many of us needed that push to understand the importance of e-commerce. So a couple of questions. Orla Dempsey, Gavin, what do you hope would remain from your life pre-COVID in the next normal?
That's a wonderful question, Orla. What I hope will remain is that Ireland will still be a caring, compassionate country. So as business people, we can get frustrated with government. And the lovely thing now, we're able to say we've had 2 governments. So it's not a political comment for one government or another. So I'm just using the term loosely. But, we say that, oh gosh, they're restricting business. But everything that government has done, along with advice from NEFIT, has been to protect people's lives, and particularly elderly people in our society. And I'm very proud that Ireland has done that. Now, I'm also connected to people who are doing business in the Netherlands, and I have to say some of the Northern European countries just have, they say it out just matter-of-factly, so the only people who are dying are older people, and sure, they're not costing us anymore. They actually say that. And these are, successful business people, because, if you go back, you don't have to go back that far, I would say even just only to the 1980s and so on. I think I saw a stat at some stage that 80-odd% of families still had a granny living with them. So we're still very conscious of the extended nuclear family in Ireland. So, Orla, I hope we remain a compassionate, caring society. Of course, we've seen a lot of an element of people, marching around with Ireland flags saying, they don't want immigrants and they don't want masks and et cetera, they're making a lot of noise. But I want to assure you, they are a very small minority. And I'm just very pleased that Ireland put people first. And I've been arguing for the last few years. I think we lost the run of ourselves in the Celtic Tiger and we put our economy ahead of society. And it's now trying to get the balance right in those two. And I think that's what we're doing. So I hope that isn't lost. And then, the other thing, Orla, I'll just say to one of the comments Noel read out, remember, the more high-tech the world becomes, the more high-touch humans will want it to be. So can I just say, we're going to a digital hub, not just because there's better broadband, but the isolation of working from home and being stuck, even if you love your house 24 hours a day. Yeah, we're social animals. And I have to say, I'm hugely uncomfortable still meeting people because I want to give them, I'm really bad. I just don't shake hands. I'm the type of hugger. So, I just, I've made the change because it's very important. I still want the world, Ireland, to be as wonderfully social as it was previously. But you could be conscious of all of the bad, niggly stuff that's happening and think that's a majority. Be assured, they're very much a minority.
No, it's super. Michael Dorr, hi Gavin, I have a startup business. I'm traveling to Poland to meet a potential supplier next week for the first time. One of my objectives is to secure an exclusivity supply agreement for Ireland. Have you any tips on how I can achieve this objective?
Well, that all depends, Michael, on whether you've got competition looking for that exclusivity. But here's the thing I would say, Michael, you should never open a new territory for any international organization unless you're getting your new territory well worked out and you have complete jurisdiction over that. So if that's the Ireland market, make sure you retain it for yourself, Michael, And Michael, that means just because you've gone to the expense, not only the expense, the hassle and these days of flying, etc. Now, you'll find that what I hear from people getting through the airport is almost going to be delightful versus normal when it would have been jammed. But, you're going all the way there. Michael, I want you to remember this. Be prepared to walk away from the table unless you get the deal you want. Because if you start off with the wrong deal, you're going in the wrong direction.
That's super. Marion Egan, I see your question. I'm going to come back to it in 1 second. You'll see why, because I'm going to throw up a little screen that might help answer it. Miriam Coyne, if you've moved from an office to work from home, would you recommend putting a home address on my correspondence? That's a really good question, actually.
So I just want to give me again, though.
So if you've moved from office to work from home, would you recommend putting a home address on your correspondence?
That's purely a personal decision. I always, when people talk to me, if they want my mobile number, I give it to them and things like that. That's a personal decision. Others may not, etc. I've never had any hassle as a result of it, but that's a personal decision. The one thing I would say is, though, speed of response is very, very important. Now, email as well, but if they're sending things to you, what's the point in sending it to an office when it needs to go to your home, yeah. Or a parcel locale,
And Louise Lonigan ties in with that one. She's saying, Gavin, I'm thinking of setting up a hot desk hub. Do you think that the likes of Vodafone or a large company will pay for their staff to hot desk locally instead of in the office in town?
Now, Noel, I'm distracted for a second. Cathal, would you do us a little favour? Would you bring in the power for my laptop, because I've just seen a battery sign on here. When I moved it to this part of the room for better light, I forgot. I plugged it out. It's in the library. Sorry. No, sorry, Noel. Sorry, just that's why I was distracted on the previous one. It's flashing at me here. Say it quickly so my power lasts.
No problem at all, Gavin. Beauty over power. That's what that message is.
Yes,
Gavin, I'm thinking of setting up a hot desk hub. Do you think that we would the likes of Vodafone pay for their staff to hot desk locally instead of in the office or in town?
Yes, I think this is going to, there's lots of lovely buildings in towns and villages all around Ireland, etc., sitting there with no use. I'm thinking of old granaries and mills and things like that, that could be changed very, very easily into a hot desk. They look cool. I think that's going to be one of the big new trends. So yeah, certainly consider that. Yeah.
So I'll give you a chance there to do your plug-in. So Marion Egan, I'm going to bounce back to your question. As a qualified practitioner for the past 30 years, I provide solutions for the physical, emotional and mental health. I have so much support to give, particularly in this current climate, yet haven't set up online just yet. Technology is not my strongest point, and I'm letting it hold me back from moving forward. I would recommend your advice. Well, Marion, shamelessly, you saw a book plug for Orla. I'm going to plug this for Jackie, which is the Local Enterprise Office website and the Trading Online Voucher Scheme. Jackie, do you want to take this one? Because you've certainly upped the number of webinars that are taking place.
Yeah, I'm very conscious that the government, through its July stimulus package, Noel, afforded businesses 90% funded up to 2,500 to get as many businesses online as possible. But that 90% offer finishes the 30th of September. So I wanted to ensure part of getting the voucher and the application is the government have put a mantra that you must actually attend a webinar. So I put another one on this afternoon, Noel. Now, while it says we are particularly featuring on the hospitality sector to get them, it's just an area that has been so badly hit. I want to ensure that they don't get missed. But part one of the webinar at 3 o'clock is for any business under 10 employees who haven't yet got their online trading voucher. They should attend that. It is generic, the first half. The second half has the tourism webinar, specific sales and marketing for tourism. But the first half is for everybody, generic. And you'll get an application form if you attend it after it. But just be mindful, anyone out there that still hasn't got their application form in, you need to get it in with 3 quotes by the 30th of September to avail of the 90% funding. Also, Noel, there is ongoing webinars for all sorts of social media and technology training on our website.
Yeah, and thank you for that.
And Noel, just to say to Jackie, I presume Kildare Leo would be like every other Leo around the country. The number of online transfer vouchers you would have managed to last year and signed off on, it's what, 8, 10, 12 times more this year.
Gavin, we did 41 trading online vouchers last year. To date, and we haven't closed yet, we're up to 392.
Yeah, so
it's, you know, in excess of €1.5 million gone into Kildare-based businesses to take them online.
All right, but does not confirm what I'm saying. We see COVID as this awful bad thing, which I'm not saying it's not, but it's speeding up things we probably should have been doing anyway. Yeah, it's forcing us in a certain direction.
Yeah.
So a question from Dinos. So he has a connection with cybersecurity. He runs a cybersecurity training company. And as you said, Gavin, we're rightly using the internet more, and it's integral to everything we're doing. Are we doing enough to guard our safety online and secure ourselves and our businesses? Obviously a vested interest there from Dinos, but he's right to highlight it, I think.
Oh, no, absolutely, Dinos, because we're now signing up to so many things we could be leaving ourselves open. So yeah, and I always like somebody who's thinking sales. Well done, sir.
Louise Lonigan, are you a mentor with Kildare, Gavin? I need help with my sales funnel and pre-qualifying customers.
I will do anything for Kildare, Leo, because Jackie McNabb had some very incriminating photographs of me from the dark and distant past, and she threatens if I don't look after business people in Kildare, she's going to release them to the internet. So Dinos, I probably need your services to block her when she does that. No, I am available. Can I just say, just to give you an idea, sorry, look, what I do is I don't think you sign up with a company for forever as a consultant. So I come on board for about 6 months, and now I'm going to be frank and honest and say the overall package that I'm doing for most people, it's at a fee of €8,000. But part of that, the first 20 hours, can be billed and was being billed a lot of the time through the business continuity voucher scheme, etc. So I would do that. How long did that run for, Jackie? Those 20 hours, we were finishing up at the end of August and so on, and then we'd roll on. But I only take on a certain number, and because I have to give them time, because it's more than just, I would be in touch with them nearly every other day, because we start building up a pipeline of work of things that has to be done. So that's how it normally operates. But look, if you want other details, get in touch.
Well, Louise has just said there, can you put me at the top of your list, please? XO, and a big smile. So there you go.
Thanks, Louise.
Mark Flanagan actually is highlighted, and I want to throw it up on the screen as well. Jackie, you might take this one also, is Shop County Kildare. So this is a... Go ahead, Jackie.
I'm absolutely delighted with the relationship with Mark Flanagan and Cova. They developed this website for us, and I know Gavin will actually love the ethos of this. At the very beginning of trying to get people online through trading online vouchers, we recognized that people hadn't been online before, and this was a very expedient way of getting online at no cost. So we put up any business that wishes to sell a product or service free of charge with the good help of the guys in Cova. They have developed this really good secure payment platform for us. But you know, the ethos too is that we want to encourage Kildare people to look after Kildare. I mean, if you want a community to be here for you, your family, your children thereafter this particular pandemic, we need to be supporting local. So it's all very well, yeah, you know, the postman comes with Amazon packages every day to everyone's house, and mine too. I have two grown-up children that keep the post going. But I'd ask you to be mindful of the businesses that you could support in Kildare. So if you're going to purchase and you're purchasing online, your first port of call, maybe go to Shop County Kildare first, drop down the menu of what you're looking for, drop down the area in which we need to purchase. We have a wealth of service and product in the county that we could be supporting before going further afield.
Here, here. Well done, Mark. That's a great initiative. And Mark would know, I very much encourage as well, clustering around the country, you know, where, you know, you can't build a really good website for your boutique. You know, why not work? I know I think, but they're in competition with me, you know, but try and sort of, you know, get on board with some local initiatives, and Shop County Kildare, well done.
And Gavin, I might just before Ger Loughlin heads off there, Ger runs the fantastic barge down in Sallins. You know, what better way to take you and your family away for an hour or two than to go on the trip down on Ger's barge, and maybe spend, within COVID restrictions, spend some time with your loved ones.
Ger, I'll be taking you up on that because, you know, I was born in Sallins, County Kildare, so just from the canal, about a mile up the road past what used to be the old meat packers, Brethwaite's own house on the left, and then there was a pig farm there in the 60s called Dorland Farm. One of my first businesses was called Dorland. That's where I was born and dragged up, as they say. So I'll definitely go for a barge spin on the canal. Looking forward to that.
You, Gavin, it's absolutely wonderful. Myself and the team did it last summer. It was gorgeous. And then we headed into Loch 13 for a magnificent meal. The guys, the Flanagans in there, really look after you.
Well, look, looking forward to that. And can I just say, because we'll be wrapping up shortly, that I just want to say well done to Kildare Leo. And at danger of embarrassing, I work with a lot of Leos around the country, but I think in Jackie and her team, Aoife and others working there, you really do have a dynamic team. And if you're coming to them as a first time through this, will you please engage with them, because you're very lucky to have in Kildare a really switched on local enterprise office. And Jackie, you do above and beyond the call of duty. So we very much appreciate what you do.
Very kind.
Well, I'm just making a comparison with the other ones around the country. You know, there's a handful of ones that are always prepared to do the innovative, be different, try something new. And I always have seen Kildare in that category.
Okay, well, thank you.
It's great to see the interaction on the chat as well. Keith O'Leary actually asked a question: will sales be the same online? Say you have a software service business, is sales now more of a marketing team than a sales team? But Mark has actually answered that with some really good statistics on Salesforce. 84% or 87% of consumers starting their buying journey online. Get as many screens as possible. Get in front of as many eyeballs. It's like a products mix. It's now about a promotional mix, which I think, to finish off, Gavin, ties right back full circle to your next normal. It is about embracing change, isn't it?
Yeah. Can I just throw in a little counterpoint for a moment? So I'm dealing with some of them are really very successful companies who headed into, they've been around for a number of years, and they headed into COVID with a lot of reserves. So, they were, I shouldn't say catch rich, but, they can afford to sit out COVID for a certain amount of time anyway, right? Here's the interesting thing. They're all of a view that for a lot of business that's done in Ireland, it still will require the expense of a salesperson in a car calling, knocking on the door, going in and sitting down and having a meeting. So yeah, as I said, there's going to be interactions, but in certain types of business, and I would say that's probably 45, 50% of the businesses that I'm dealing with, that is still going to be the business model in next normal. But what I'm saying is, the salesperson, if they're not doing this already, they'll be sort of nearly filling the orders from a handheld in the room with the person there at the time. Rather, the process is all moving online, the backup is online, but in certain sectors there still will be a lot of human interface, if I was to use that term. So it's getting the balances right.
That's super. And Gavin, thank you very much on behalf of everyone that's here. A quick reminder to everybody that this is a weekly series, and the session is recorded, so it will be rendered and put up online. So we had Sean week 1, Joanne last week, and we have Gavin today. So his session that you've just seen will be recorded and put up online. Thank you very much from my end. It makes my job very easy when all the questions coming in. So I'm going to pass to you, Jackie, just to close out the session.
Thanks a million, Noel, and thank you to everyone for joining us this morning. Do tell your friends. We're here to help support them in whatever way we can. Always go to our website. If you haven't already done so, sign up for the newsletter and social media platforms. That way you'll be kept in the loop, and you won't be as isolated as you might be when working from home. And above all, thanks a million, Gavin, for meeting me for coffee. It's been just such a pleasure to connect with you. I've missed you. And I look forward to working with you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we'll no doubt chat about what I'll be able to do for you in Kildare. Yeah.
And I'm looking at the feedback, Gavin. I mean, your insights were wonderful. You've given some great leadership taught to the business community here. You have indeed. And I think,
stop, please.
I think an awful lot of businesses, it's the kind of little warmth, good guidance they need to be energized for another week. And I think that's all we can do, is take it week by week and embrace the challenges that this week bring us, and try not to think too far ahead. I would advocate. And I would urge everybody, we may have got a little lax maybe in the hand washing and the social distancing, but do remind you and your family just to keep it up. It's worth it. We were locked down for for longer than we had wanted or desired to be, and we'd hate to be going back there in Kildare again. So I do urge you all to mind each other, stay safe, and be kind to each other. And I really look forward to seeing you all again for next week's coffee.